Denny, moral failure is such a huge topic and certainly an impactful one as well. We've already covered a lot on this topic. As we just heard from Clinton, the pornography issue is such a big deal as well. Mm-hmm. Denny, how do we stay safe from moral failure?
There's a research project that I was involved in called Crosshairs Research, and I write about it in my book, At Full Strength, Navigating the Risk All Pastors Face. And I think it's important to know, how do we stay safe? What precipitates, what sets the climate for having a moral failure? I think if we know ahead of time the climate in which it gives birth to moral failure, it's easier. And there are 5 criteria that was true of all 87 pastors that participate in the project who had been dismissed due to moral failure.
So, Denny, let's hear those 5.
Well, I put them in a acrostic because I'm not smart enough to remember it. All 5 points is the ABCs of protecting your heart, or the ABCs of moral failure. The first one is A, for accountability. Okay. If the pastors were an accountability group, the thing is, if they had a moral failure, they had ceased to be accountable for at least a season. Okay. The second one is the belief that it will never happen to me. I think this is the one that can save a lot of men and women from moral failure. This is the one that really protects my heart, because when all 5 of these kind of line up, it's almost too late. Wow. The third one is commitments at work had taken precedence over commitments at home. With the spouse, with the kids, with family. The fourth one is devotional life had ceased to exist except in moments of desperation. Okay. They were still having some spiritual feeding when they were desperate, but no routine of spiritual feeding was there. Yeah. E is more emotional energy was expended on self-justifying rather than self-evaluating. And here's the thing about protecting your heart. If all 87, and it's interesting, 85 said all 5 were true. 2 of them said there's one that wasn't true, but here's what their spouse said. Are you kidding me? Oh, wow. All 5 of those were lined up. When they all 5 line up, a person is in grave danger of moral failure. Here's where it protects the heart. Accountability. Yeah. Believing it will happen or can happen to me. Yeah. Here's the thing. I've had too many good men and women in my office who are much more mature than me, much more spiritually mature than me, who've gone off the rails into moral failure. This one can really protect you, believing it can happen to you. The third one is your commitments at home. Show up your commitments, the C, commitments at home, taking precedence over commitments at work. I tell pastors this: whose hand do you want holding yours on your deathbed? It's not your church. Wow. It's not even your kids. It's probably the person you sleep next to, if you're married. And so D, devotional life. I don't even like the word devotional because it elicits kind of a ritualistic routine. Sure. But I put it this way: how's your spiritual feeding? Yes. When I ask pastors that, I wait about 40 seconds of silence. And here's what I usually find out. What took us so long for you to answer that? They would say, nobody ever asked me that question. I'm not even too sure how to answer it. Then E, are you investing emotional energy in self-evaluating as opposed to self-justifying your actions, behaviors, and attitudes? And so the ABCs you could find in the book At Full Strength, but it's really easy to remember if you put in ABCs. Accountability, belief it could happen to me. Commitments at home being shored up. Devotional life is rich in a true spiritual feeding, and emotional energy is invested in self-evaluating. Anybody who's had all 5 of those in place for any length in their career, I've never met one man or woman who's gone into moral failure who has all 5 of those in place.
Wow, Denny, such wisdom. Thank you for that. Pastor, you may need to rewind. You may need to recap on a couple of those points. Let them speak to your heart. Be self-aware enough to tell yourself, here are the ones I'm struggling with. Here are the ones I can reach out on for help so that you can stay safe from moral failure.